We are here at MJG Studios for the latest installment of the Community Pulse, where we take the pulse of community so we can take action. Welcome to PCS's MJG Studios. This is the Community Pulse. We are here at MJG Studios for Proactive Community Services, Community Pulse, where we take the pulse of the community so that we can take action. This is the fourth time I've sat down with my favorite kin, Kendall, Matias.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back for a conversation about, what is it, the current state of affairs?
Yeah, we're going to kind of talk about what LGBTQ rights look like in Illinois right now as opposed to the federal landscape. And, you know, we looked at the past last week, so now we want to look at where we're at in the present.
I feel like that's just a good time as any to start. Kick it off. Let me know what's going on.
Yeah, so, you know, I know there's a lot of people who live in Illinois and in and around of Chicago that really like to rag on Chicago. They say, I don't like to live here, I don't like to live in Chicago. But if you're a person in the LGBTQ community, Illinois is one of the legally safest places you can live in the United States of America.
Okay. And so for Chicago, I think that we have so do we have any numbers about what that community looks like in Chicago?
Yeah, well, I have it is statewide for the entire state of Illinois. This is as of 2024, so a couple of years ago. These numbers are a little dated. But there are 446,000 LGBTQ adults in Illinois.
And if all of them sent me $1, I'd be rich. But
I mean, that would be a wonderful, wonderful thing.
So 446,000, and you said that Illinois is one of the most legally safe states to live. So what does that look like as far as being legally safe? Like, what does that?
Yeah. So when I say legal safety and legal protections, those are things like the Illinois Human Rights Act is one of the broadest legal protections in the entire country when it comes to protecting people for all sorts of protected classes. When you think of the Federal Civil Rights Act that was passed in 1964, that primarily is focused around race and sex. The Illinois Human Rights Act here in our bright, shiny state of Illinois goes far beyond that, and it protects people when it comes to their sexual orientation, when it comes to their gender identity. It also protects them more expansively when it comes to their disability status, when it comes to their class. It's really, really expansive. So what this means in a practical sense is it's everything from employment, meaning that you cannot be fired for losing your job, or you cannot be fired for your sexual orientation or gender identity. Now that's federal now. That also happened at the federal level in 2023. There was a landmark Supreme Court case called Bostock versus Clayton, where it got all the way up to the federal courts, and they decided and they interpreted the law to say that it's actually a Title IX violation to be fired for your sexual orientation or gender identity, because it comes down to being fired for behaviors that you wouldn't be fired for if you were a different sex.
Gotcha.
And so in Illinois, we had that long before the Supreme Court passed those laws, and it's in the Constitution here in Illinois. The other things that are protected is housing. Your landlord can't kick you out because you're gay. Your landlord can't kick you out because you're trans, and you also cannot be discriminated against when it comes to like purchasing a home.
And that's things that were like happening.
Oh, of course.
And so I'm asking that just because I know like you have an expertise level to this, and you're like kind of involved with knowing all this information. And she's not using a teleprompter, by the way. This is straight off the dome, right? And so I know you know about this, but for people who are watching who don't have that same experience base, can you give us a little insight to why those protections even matter?
Yeah.
Because for people who don't know, it's like, well, what's the big deal? I can go buy a home or, whatever else.
Yeah, so there are actually states in the United States at this point where you could be discriminated against in housing for your sexual orientation or your gender identity, right? Let's say you're in a, you're in your HOA. You have your housing HOA, and they're the people that say you can't put up flags and you can't have a purple door, right, in your HOA. They also, in some states, legally can say we don't want a same-sex couple purchasing in our neighborhood.
Okay. And so that looks like a lack of access to certain amenities in the community, like schools or different
schools,
safe
and
places to live
also
and all of that.
economic stability
Yeah,
and
okay.
being able to travel where you want to. And really, what it comes down to is freedom. It comes down to having equal freedoms under the law. Some other protections that we have here in Illinois that are more unique is we're also protected when it comes to parenting and adoption laws.
Okay.
So LGBTQ adults are fully able to adopt under Illinois state law. And also under Illinois state law, there has to be fertility care for people that would like to grow their families in other ways.
Okay.
And so private insurance by state law is mandated to cover fertility treatments as well,
Right.
for however people would like to grow their families.
So Illinois is pretty progressive as it relates to just the LGBTQ safety and rights with our with our state law.
Yeah, and the state is honestly a safe haven. What we've been seeing
Right.
is over the
I
last...
very seldom hear Illinois being associated with being a safe haven, because I think when you say Illinois, people think like Chicago, and like you said, like that bad knock on, gang violence and all of this. But for those of us who live here, and for people who get a chance to experience it, Illinois, Chicago, like there's some great things that are happening in Illinois. And one of the greatest things that's happening in Illinois is proactive community services, bringing you content like this so that you can be informed about what's happening, and we'll continue to talk about that.
Very well.
So you were saying Illinois with the state something.
Yeah, so Illinois is honestly a safe haven, something that we've started to see as the federal landscape has changed and as our neighboring states such as Indiana, Wisconsin, and even Iowa have started to really roll back these protections, especially when it comes to the rights of parents to parent how they feel correctly, their LGBTQ children. We've seen Illinois population increase in the ways that people are fleeing here because they have the freedom to raise their families how they choose to, in ways that keep their families safe.
Yeah, Illinois is a safe haven. Wow. If there was a thing that you could change about some of the other states, what's the biggest enemy to equality you think that exists for this community as it relates to some of the protections Illinois does have? Because I'm thinking about this bigger picture. What do you see as like the biggest enemy for people to live? And I like the way you phrased it, I think, in one of our earlier conversations, just about humanity. Like, what's the biggest the enemy to that you've identified just in your work and your experience? Because we talk about home ownership, adoption, raising kids, marriage, and all of these different things that for, everyone else is like normal or things that can happen. But what do you think the biggest enemy to the LGBTQ population is as it relates to those protections not being everywhere?
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good question, Kenny. And honestly, it's hard for me to answer because I will answer it. I'm not going to dodge the question. But full disclosure, I've lived in Illinois most of my life. I lived in Ohio for a couple of years in undergrad and Maryland for a year in grad school. So I really understood and had the privileges of living in Illinois under these policies for the majority of my life. And so
I'm going to bring this back. Where did you live in Ohio?
I lived in Bowling Green, Ohio, and so Bowling Green State University for undergrad.
Did you eat a lot of chili? I heard people in Ohio eat tons of chili.
That's mostly in southern Ohio, where they eat skyline chili. Yeah.
What is the infatuation with chili in Ohio?
So skyline chili.
Do we know? Tony, do you know?
Skyline chili is a local chain in Ohio. They put cinnamon in their chili. People love it, and then they eat it with spaghetti. It's a whole thing.
No, I drove through and like I'm glad you said skyline. I was like, why are there so many? It's like a fast food chili?
It's a fast food chili chain.
Crazy work. But we're back. You had the benefit of living in Illinois this entire time.
If I had to identify something that is really detrimental to people broadly, I would say it's the lack of coverage in health insurance when it comes to certain treatments that people need for transgender adults. There are Medicaid programs throughout the country that simply won't cover people's gender affirming care anymore.
Okay.
So, that's people that are taking hormone treatment or having surgeries to affirm their gender identities.
Okay.
And so that can be really, really harmful to people because not only is that medical care that their body needs, depending on what kind of surgeries they have already had, it's also very important to their psychosocial health and social aspects, right? Okay. Something else I would say is I do think that the housing can be very detrimental because we know that if we're looking at I'm going to get kind of heady here. If we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Where at the
Shout out to Maslow and them. No.
Where at the very bottom is our very basic needs like housing and food and health. We are not able to reach the top tier, which is our ultimate happiness and bliss, unless we have that base first.
Okay.
And so if you're a person who's at risk of housing discrimination just because of who you are and who you love and how you live your life, that's definitely something that's going to affect every other aspect of your life, like employment and relationships and the ability to have fun and live a full human life.
No, you know what? I have the benefit of working with you and just seeing the care, concern, and compassion that you put towards your work. And it is truly admirable. Because one of the things that I can say that I appreciate working with you, working at PCS, just as a whole, is the focus on humanity and the willingness to give out information without opinion, right?
Yeah.
We talk about a lot of heavy stuff here. A lot of the work we do is heavy. Not everybody agrees with LGBTQ rights or all of this other stuff that we're talking about during Pride Month, during June. But giving people the access to information to have an informed opinion does matter.
Sure.
Because I don't even think it's about, I want you to take on this mantle and believe what I believe, but I want you to have all the facts present so that you can treat people with humanity and kindness at all costs. And I think that these talks have done a good job of facilitating an environment where that can happen.
Yeah.
You know?
And I also think it's interesting because we've talked a lot about various things like religious beliefs around LGBTQ identities and the thoughts that people hold. And, you know, we're not here to say this or that, but right now I'm just telling you this is what the law is, and this is what happens or changes based off of the law, or what happens when these laws are not in place.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not about is this right or is this wrong.
And I think that's where people go, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's such a stern difference of opinion on this, and that's, I'm here to give you truth.
Yeah.
And
this is
whatever
the
you
reality
decide
of
to
the
do with it,
situation.
you do.
Yeah.
And I don't like to dodge those conversations because people will say, well, how can you talk about this? What do you believe about that? Anything you believe about any subject matter is a personal held belief. But if you are human and you believe in human rights or you believe in whatever else, here's access to information. Part of what drew me to PCS as an employee was there were all these great services happening, you know, and then I looked at people who needed the services who didn't even know certain things existed.
Yeah.
And it's like I was able, you know, with under our leadership to kind of merge the two. These are the services. This is where you can get help. And in the middle of that, PCS was like this information hub.
Yeah.
With HIV screening, testing, harm reduction, prevention, all of these different things. And I'm like, this is what the community needs, and this is what we have. Let's try to make sure that we always have what the community needs. And I appreciate the different tiers of programming that's set up for the community needs.
Yeah.
And speaking of what the community needs, we need more Kendall, Matias. We need more information. Talk to us. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah. So some of the other kinds of discrimination that folks are protected from in Illinois include discrimination by healthcare providers, right?
Okay.
So if you go to a doctor and they're just kind of a jerk, or they're going to refuse you services.
I'm trying to laugh. I've had some of the jerkiest doctors. Hopefully they're not watching this, but treat me nice. Yeah.
Or if they're specifically discriminating against you and being a jerk because of who you are, you can sue them. Take their license. Illinois Department of Human Rights will help you.
Really?
Because you are protected against that.
Ooh.
Correct.
Illinois Department of Human Rights. How many of y'all didn't even know Illinois had a Department of Human Rights? She done learned just something today. So they will protect you against things like that.
The other thing is in school spaces right now. So in both elementary and high schools and at the collegiate level, any kind of discrimination that happens to a young trans kid is a Title IX violation. It's also a violation if there is a trans or LGBTQ youth who's being like excluded from a sport. Okay. That is also a Title IX violation. Now the federal.
Look up Title IX. Okay.
So Title IX is the one that says that women should have equal access to sports in school. Okay. That's how it started.
Yeah.
Then it became a whole other thing about discrimination based on sex and making sure that schools are not discriminating against women and girls based off of sex. But then there is an expanded definition of sex, meaning that it's not just men and women, and it's not just women that are being discriminated against, but it's sexual orientation and gender identity as well.
Ooh. Note to self, no need to look up Title IX. No, I heard, I was like, ooh, Title IX.
I used to work in the school system, so Title IX was a monster I had to be familiar with.
Well, they know you worked in the school system. They saw episode 1.
Or go back and watch it.
Of the Kendall and Kenny Conversations.
Or go back and watch it.
You should definitely go back and rewatch all of these so that you are informed as Kendall is.
The other place is if your bank discriminates against you, if you're being discriminated against in financial services, if somebody says that they don't want to work with you, or, we also all know that sometimes people just don't outright say this stuff.
Yeah, right? I was going to say, that it can be...
They're not going to just look at you and be like, you're gay, and so you can go bank somewhere else.
Could you imagine that conversation? Like, well, okay then.
Or go to the doctor somewhere else. I think it happens sometimes in sneakier and more insidious ways. And when it happens like that, it can become harder to prove, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't pursue it and shouldn't pursue a discrimination filing.
Have you ever known anybody personally that's gone through a certain type of discrimination based off of sex or
So I've known people that have gone through discrimination filings, or at least have given out cease and desists for their HIV status, which is also a protected status under the law. You cannot be fired for having or living with HIV.
It sounds so goofy to think that could even be a possibility.
Yeah, but if you think about it, people were really scared in the 80s when HIV and everything happened. I wasn't there yet. I wasn't around.
I can actually literally remember that. So can Tony, who's off camera. Tony was a grown-up back then, too. I was a baby, but Tony was a grown-up.
No, I wasn't around yet. But, it was not uncommon for, you had a white-collar advertising job, and, you didn't tell people you were gay, and God forbid you had HIV, you weren't going to tell people, because they absolutely would have fired you.
I guess, you know what, and so this is the part of, and I'll say the term ignorance on purpose regarding myself. I never really thought about being in a situation where, because now you're going to meetings, they'll say, well, what are your pronouns, this, that, and third. So that's still a new thing for me, and sometimes if I will stand from whatever else, because call me Kenny, right? And so I've never thought about that being a thing, and I always hear when people say, well, you never let someone know you're gay, right? Back then. Yeah. And I was like, have I ever come to work like, hey Kendall, I'm heterosexual.
Yeah, but you talk about your wife.
On occasion. Not in a bad way. You gotta wait a minute, hold on.
Not in a bad way.
You gotta put a handle on that. I gotta go home.
Not in a bad way, only good things.
Tony, can I stay on your couch if something happened? Kendall told on me.
Yes,
but you know what I mean? Then
and so
in an equal way, not in an explicit way, not in a what did you get up to on a nasty Friday night?
Do I say yo like that?
No.
I do say that, yo.
It is good to be able to talk casually with your coworkers about what are you doing on your weekend?
Yeah.
And if a person who is gay or LGBTQ talks about what they're doing on their weekend, and it's that they're hanging out with their girlfriend, and that gets back, and that is a reason why they're let go, that's illegal.
Well, you know what, and maybe because I've always worked in a situation, shout out to Eula Burge, our CEO, but I've always worked in cool environments and in social services, right? Yeah. I can't imagine what that would be like, so Kendall, I have a report that you were kicking it with your girlfriend. What are we talking about?
I also think it changes in place to place, and also this is also what we're looking at culturally, right? There are places in the South where, or even out west, where it can be really scary for an LGBTQ person to be their authentic self in every space that they exist in.
Yeah, because I was trying to think when we were talking. The reason I asked you if you knew someone personally, I was going to ask the question: what is it like? Walking with someone through that type of, and I'm assuming that would be akin to trauma, right?
Absolutely.
Walking through that trauma with somebody, and this might veer off a little bit of the topic, but I'm thinking of it now. What is it like being a support for that? Because this information that you're giving out, while casual and you know this, for people who don't or who aren't as versed, what is it like being a support or a true ally for someone who's going through this type of trauma? What do you do to deal with that, because you do this for work.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is like a mission of a humanity of life for you.
Yeah.
What is that like? Like, how do you deal? You know
so I do a lot of, with even just like people in my life, clients, I do a lot of listening, but then I do also a lot of helping coach that person and motivational coaching into how to help them help themselves.
That's it. Can you say it slow so you can say it some more, Kendall? Listen first, but then...
And then I motivationally coach them into how to help them help themselves.
I think it's a beautiful thing when you realize sometimes the best resource you can have is yourself. And when you have people like Kendall to walk you through situations like that, it means the world, because I think at the root of all of this, and we talk about humanity, it is how you feel about yourself and being an advocate for yourself in those situations. But continue. So you listen and you motivate.
I listen and I motivate, and I'm going to talk them through the steps that maybe I would take if I was in that situation. Yeah. But this is after they've had a minute to like really be in their feelings, right? Because whatever you're going through, whether it's somebody's running their mouth about your HIV status in the hallway of your building, or you're going through a really scary situation with, I don't know, the principal at your kid's school is being weird that the kid has 2 gay parents. That is just an example that I pulled out of the sky. That could definitely happen, right? They're going to work through their feelings, and then we're going to talk through what are the practical steps that you take, and is this a situation that's worth running up the flagpole and making kind of a stink about, or is it something that you're going to have to sit with and wait for something else to happen, right? Because not every situation of discrimination, right? We talk about discrimination in blatant ways, but we also can talk about.
My phone has been vibrating for 20,000 minutes.
I don't know.
I have to cut it off. It was rubbing my leg, and I was like, you were talking. I was like,
but we also could talk about microaggressions, right?
Okay.
And those are things that happen that are much more casual, but are not. That don't make you feel good, right? Like, I could look at you, Kenny, and be like, Kenny, like, are those glasses new? Did you get new glasses? And I could be kind of shady about your new glasses.
I'm willing to take any compliments. I was like, go on, Kendall, you know what I'm saying?
But I'm saying it's the opposite. It's when people make little digs at you around stuff, and it's maybe not quite enough to make it worth it to go through all the hassle.
Dude, when I got a place, and cousin comes over, and then I like your little furniture, you got your little couch. And I had just spent some bread on this couch. And I was like, little couch. In my head, I'm like, little couch? Yeah. So I can really give it to me.
Exactly. But it's about things that are more serious, right? Yeah. Like race, or your economic background, or your education, or your LGBTQ identity.
So I just want to be really, so the same things that you would do to walk anyone through trauma is the same thing you do to walk somebody through trauma around LGBT.
Yeah. Wow. Trauma's trauma.
Imagine that. Trauma is trauma.
Trauma's trauma.
This is the 4th installment of what we hope has been some great information, a great time of learning, but also a little bit of entertainment. Always good to talk to Kendall.
Hope you had fun with us along the way.
I had fun.
I had fun too.
So it's all about me right now. It's all about me. We talked about rights. We talked about Illinois being a safe haven. Not just the home of Harold's Chicken, which is the best chicken. It's better than Uncle Remus. Fight in the comments. It's the best chicken out here.
But going all the way back, we started with prep.
We did.
Right?
No, wait.
Yeah. Wasn't our first one prep? Yeah.
I feel like I should have if Tony loved me, I would have a list of stuff and I could refer to it, but he doesn't.
We started with prep.
Started with prep and pep? No, we started with prep.
Prep and pep.
Because that comes before.
All of it. And my background, remember?
Kendall's background.
Oh, that's kind of what we started with.
Yeah, not just background, but...
We talked about pride and the point of pride. And then we talked about LGBTQ, like history.
Oh, I wanted to prep, pride, the past, and now we're talking about the present.
The present!
Bow! 4 P's and the 5th P is
Look
P-C-S. Look at me. Please look at me. It's a great look. But no. Close us out. What do you want people to know about the summation of what we've talked about? Yeah. Sum it up for them in a sentence. Tony, get a real close-up and make it... Can you put, like, really cinematic music to her face? No? Okay, whatever.
If I had to sum up everything that we've talked about over these last couple of weeks together, this has been awesome. I'm glad that I've had such an awesome person to help guide me through these interviews, and I couldn't have done it.
I'll do it. You know I'll weep.
But if I had to kind of put a shiny bow on everything that we talked about and a conclusion that I want people to walk away from, it's that, people carry stuff that you don't know about. Whether that's their HIV diagnosis or what's going on in their personal life. PCS is here to help you with the things that not everybody knows about. And we're ready and we're here for you to help carry you through it and hopefully get you to those moments when you're ready to share and be an advocate. But we're here for all the stuff that maybe you don't share.
PCS is here for the people. We got the people CEO, Eula Burge, at the helm. We have great people like Kendall, Matias,
and Kenny Brown.
Myself. Absolutely. Oh, you almost shout me out. For more information about whatever proactive community services can do for you, www.pcsil.org, or you can give us a call at 708-248-6166. We look forward to hearing from you. This has been the Community Pulse, and we have taken action. Peace.
Bye.